Hi guys, and welcome into the War Story podcast. Apologies, this is a couple of days late. I have not been able to figure out this new updates on the recording software they use. So big shout out to Lucas, and a thank you for helping me finally get this put together and out there. This is obviously part 2 of Tip Cullen's episode. If you haven't listened to part 1, that came out last week. So Tip served 30 years in the Royal Marines Commandos. If you want to go back and listen to the last episode, I suggest you start with that one because it covers Tip's early career from Northern Ireland all the way up to and including the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Today we're going to pick up where we left off and cover very quickly the rest of Tip's career. It's a 30-year career. Obviously, we are just skimming the service here. If you haven't done it already, check out the film in which Tip is the leading star, Sunray Fallen Soldier. Links down in the show notes. And on a personal note, I just want to say thank you to everybody who picked up a copy of Voices of Victory. That's the latest book that I've put out. It covers the British Army's campaign in Germany, last 3 months of the war. If you're interested in war stories, I think you'll be interested in this book. I don't really like using the term unheard, but it is an overlooked campaign. Something that I think we've really kind of overlooked in the UK. And, it's everything from breaking into Germany through the Siegfried Line, the Rhine crossing, the final few weeks of the war up into peace. And it's all personal accounts. These are using the words of the soldiers themselves wherever possible. It's on Spotify Premium as an audiobook. You can listen on there. You can get ebooks. You can buy the audiobook on Audible or use a credit for it. And if you want a signed copy, I do those for the same price as they cost me to buy it. So there's a link to those in the show notes. So thanks very much for all your support on that, guys. Okay, without further ado, here's Tip.
We got up to... So Tip, what was the next step in the career when you got back from Iraq?
Well, we came back from there and really, career-wise, within a few weeks or months, I got selected for promotion to Sergeant Major. But in that time, I had to sort of do the, well, not that I had to, I really wanted to go around and, see the next of kin of all the people that died and make sure that, where they were buried and just, basically just getting top of that, really, because I think my partner and my family had sort of been there to attend relevant funerals and that where they could. And it was sort of my time to go and visit people and just pass on my, respects. And then after that, it was moving forward. So I got promoted or selected for promotion to be a Sergeant Major or to be a WO2. And that was it. I went on course after Christmas 2000 and early 2004. I think done my WO2 or Sergeant Major's course and then went back out, joined the Brigade Reconnaissance Force for the rest of Norway deployment. And when I arrived back by Easter time in 2004, I went on draft or posting in it, they call it in the Army, went posting. I went to RMR Tyne as the unit Sergeant Major. So 1 minute I was a colour sergeant, next thing I'm a Sergeant Major, a unit Sergeant Major with my own pub, my own mess and everything. It was incredible. In Newcastle as well. So I stayed there for a year and they were, it's an incredible environment. It's a well-supported reserve unit in the Northeast as well. And a lot of the people that were there were ex-regulars that I knew and I've served with. So it was a great time. From there, I got drafted to...
Well, just before we go on, mate, I just want to rewind a bit. Oh, bloody hell, voice cracking. I just want to rewind a bit to what you're saying about visiting the families of the guys that you lost in Iraq. Presumably these guys, have they been laid to rest in their own hometowns and that kind of thing? And then you went, did you know the families from meeting them at Mastus and in the not in the regiment, but in the commando and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, certain individuals we did. We shared we shared a table with partners at mess functions. But a lot of the other guys I hadn't, and I really didn't get a chance to link properly up with their families until we had a commemoration service when we got back, just for the people we'd lost. And also, we linked up again with them further down the line when I was sort of like the only witness to the actual crash and what happened at the regimental inquiry and then at the coroner's inquest in Oxford. So I then again at that stage I was able to link up with the families again, which is important. Like, and I think any family or parent, mum, especially I'd say mothers as well, who loses a son or daughter on operations, it's an extremely hard thing. And I think it's a life sentence. It's not, it's so hard. And I know so many people now who are friends, but I was friends with their sons or worked with their sons and daughters who are sons mostly for me, who died on operations. And to say that time heals wounds, it does heal wounds, but for a parent or a guardian, especially a mum, I don't think that wound will ever heal, the loss of someone. So I still, I still try and reach out and keep in touch, but it's that the positive aspect of it against the negative, because again, it's unearthing, the wounds again. But it's I think the people I reach out to and I speak to, are pretty, happy to see me, I think.
As a parent yourself with, serving sons, right, that must make things, I mean, having that close contact with the families like that, how do you balance, being a dad and wanting your kids to do the best, do what they want, get out what they want out of life, while knowing, seeing what parents have gone through as well? Because you're kind of on both, you've been on all ends of the spectrum. You've been the dad, you've seen, and then you've been the soldier and everything.
Well, for me, it was it came closer to home, or landed on more with me later down the line when a couple of my sons were on operations, and I just come back from operations. But that's later in the story as such. But at that point in time, my kids were all, they were getting into those years of near adults. My eldest were, and I at that time I couldn't picture them doing what I done or even wanting to do what I want done. So it was later down the line when they said that they did want to join. And the first son who did want to join, he'd only just done his exams at school. He was only 16. And I said, well, no, wait until you're 18. And, then you can make your choice, and you're 18-year-old, you're grown up, you can do it. But that wasn't for him. He wanted to join the Royal Marines. So through an accident in some way, I said, oh, you still want to join up, do you? And he said, yeah, that's what I want to do. So I dragged him down to the careers office and said, he wants to join the Marines. He wants to join the Royal Marines. And the guy who sort of hosted him in the careers office was a friend of mine who I'd served with. He was an incredible Falklands War veteran. And he went, I don't think that's the way we do it. He's actually got to decide. So I said, no, I'm just bringing him here. It's what he wants to do. He follows it now and he does it. And he did. He just cracked on. And I think if anyone knows, you can't just join the Royal Marines and think you're just going to do it I'll just do it this weekend for a laugh. It's you have to be really, really focused to get through it and achieve it. And he smashed it. He was a young lad. He smashed it. And I could see passionately that's what he wanted to do. So I couldn't stop him, really.
So on this kind of, while we're on the subject of loss, I know then when, the Afghan tours started coming up, you mentioned that you had a lot to do with the repatriations and that kind of thing. Did your experience of losing, because, when you serve with people, everyone in that unit is your comrades. But obviously some people closer than others, and then the different ranks that you have, maybe you have different relationships with people and things like that. So how did your kind of experiences of losing your own comrades on the Iraq invasion You know, how did that kind of factor into then doing these repatriations when guys were going on these regular Afghanistan tours and some of them were losing their lives?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I was involved with it, but I think a hell of a lot of people I think in the general armed forces community, but definitely within the Corps and the naval service as well. There was a lot of people involved in the welfare and that process from kin forming to NODICAS to welfare support, and linked in with the Padres as well. And I done various courses on kin forming and also funeral officers courses. Uh, and thankfully, I didn't have to do either of those tasks, but I had to support and be part of burial parties and recover people and bury them. Uh, and I think you do get experience, but it doesn't blunt the trauma for the impact on the families or on yourself for losing people, especially such quality young people that are at the pinnacle of their life, physically, and they've had their formative years. They're now a really, really incredible asset for our whole society, and for them to sort of be stuffed out in a breath and brought back. It's extremely sad. It could happen anywhere in any other business, but for us, for me, it was very close to home. Having been part of the Trump, the kinetic side, where the energy when that life is extinguished, to now being the person at the far end of that person's journey when they get buried and their families. And I think is a very important part of the way we do things in the service. And I do genuinely think it's probably from the experience we gained in Iraq and Afghanistan, we're quite good at it at the minute.
What do you think it is that we do well, and if anything, like what is it you think that could be done better?
I think it's like in a way, I can only speak for my cap badge in this. I know that the Royal Marines, the way or the everything that I've been involved with has been done really, really compassionately, and I think they've got very good listening ears for the wider circumstances for families that have lost someone, and even their political backgrounds and everything. I think we do listen with a good compassionate ear, because we fully give 100% for our people sacrificing their lives on operations. And it also, with the regimental framework that we have in the Royal Marines, with the Royal Marines Association and the charity, there's a certain level of enduring support. It's not immaculate, it's not 100%, it's not full-time either, but we will never forget our people, I think. And that's something that I even some of the stuff I'm writing at the minute for work and play and theatre and that is about those people, so that their memories that are kept alive, so that that we're not that shallow, that once they're gone, let's just look forward and carry on. I think for any of us that were involved in those type of operations where life or death was there, we'd like to think that if something happened to us, that either through our families or through our corps or our regiments, that people have a little twinkle one day and they think of you, or remember one of those positive things, or that energy that you gave. And I think that's really important. I think if we forget people, then it would really challenge me on why we do it. Why do we do it?
What was it like for you to be, in the UK on that end of things while these operations are going on in Afghanistan? Because this is really kind of probably the first time you've not been out there at the front of things, right?
Yeah, when it sort of went up, when Herrick sort of like began, obviously, and that turn of the wheel sort of happened for the different brigades within as the lead sort of brigades within the armed forces. It was straight away from the first, like from Herrick 4, I think it was the first kinetic one. It just ramped up. It was fully on intense battles happening day in, day out. And up to that point, because I had friends that were actually, bizarrely, it's a spooky way. I've got friends, personal friends, that were there when they went, right, we're building Bastion here. Let's stick the digger in here. This is where Bastion's gonna be. And there was a company group of Marines there from the start, near enough. And up to the point where it racked up and the brigade level deployment happened, and then it went, pretty kinetic after that. Up to that point, it was very benign, and then all of a sudden, it went kinetic, which again, probably a force on the ground, more people out, and the intentions were made clear, about what we were doing to try and defeat you know the the Taliban, really, or the insurgents. And so it's a weird thing. When my guys were starting to go out, because he's obviously from the organization that I obviously deployed with so many times previously, we knew that it was going to be a kinetic and hard sort of battle. And when they went on Herrick 5, I think it was for 3 Commander Brigade, it was a very deeply, it was a very busy, it was a gunfight. There was a lot of battles, a lot of gunfights. There was a lot of trauma involved, including the Juggling Fort type thing, and things where Corporal Ford died, and they kept Patchy's recovery off him, and there's so many different things. It was a very, very fast paced and intense battle arena at that time, and I was in my office at Commander Training Center. So I went from obviously time to Commander Training Center in 2005, and I remember two of the guys coming back, and one was a JTAC and one was one of the troop OCs, and they just squatted in the corner with their big beards, a bit like your beard is at the minute, and they were just sort of giggling themselves. They were just in the little Afghan squat in the corner, and they were just, they were that buzzing so much, the adrenaline. They literally just got back in on their R&R, and one of the guys just went, "Fucking hell! 2 minutes ago we were dropping 3 JDAMs. I remember that contact we had, blah blah blah, and it was 3 days or something before." And he's literally now sitting in my office at the Commander Training Center, squatting down, and you could see that their buzz and their adrenaline hadn't been sort of like, calmed in any way, even getting back. See, their family now, they just needed that little. They came in and sat in my office and just, were telling me, stories of what they've been up to, but I think they needed to be able to offload in some way.
And was that one of your roles at that time then? It was to deal with people coming back on R&R, and then at the end of the deployment, was that something that you were kind of involved in, and something that you were conscious these guys would need to go?
I was proactive in it because they were obviously my friends and my people, but it wasn't the job that I'd been delegated to do or anything. At that time I was the command wing sergeant major at the Commander Training Center, so I basically was the sergeant major for all of, as I said, command training. So young officer training, senior corps commission officer training, sergeant major courses, W1 RSM courses, sergeant's courses, corporal courses, which were all done in-house at CTC. So I was the administrator for all those command structured courses. So that was my day job, my main job. But because everybody in the corps always had their second eye on what was happening in operations, how our people were, especially when we're starting to take casualties. It's just how you, in any way, as a family, we can support, the individual's family, and getting, them or supporting as best we can. And again, it wasn't perfect by any means, but it was, we positively felt for our people.
So, you must have been in for almost 20 years by this point, maybe actually 20. So,
20 years. Yeah.
How big is the brigade? And because you must know an awful lot of these, you must have had, the way that they move you around from jobs to jobs. You must know an awful lot of these people who are out there by now.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially as you go through the ranks, you get up to especially sergeant major level. You do. I mean, especially the mountain leader branch as such. I knew everybody in the branch at the time. I mean, that was my branch. There's only there's 85 registered line numbers in the Royal Marines from mountain leaders. So I know, that was my badge and my specialization. But from that, remember, I've been, as a sergeant major, you troop sergeant, you've grown up with people that have known you, because remember, you're a sergeant major, there's all these guys that are like troop sergeants, your TQ or your quartermaster, and you go down to, corporals and that. And you remember your sergeant major when you were one of those corporals. So you acquire, and because of the move around in the corps, people go to different parts now. So I knew a lot of people in the corps, and I think, a lot of people knew me, whether for a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know.
So let's just have a look what's next on these bullet points, mate. So is there anything else from that kind of period that you think before we go on to the ML specialist advisor?
No, I think that was, yeah, the only job I wanted as a sergeant major, because up until that point, I hadn't been away from basically reconnaissance or in a commando unit. So my first job out of it was as a sergeant major, which is pretty spooky in it, for your career. And then to be back at the commando training center as a sergeant major, it's my second tour. And then at that stage, that's when I went for the W01's board. So we do it down at Portsmouth. It's quite a, it was, I think it still is. It's quite an official process where you go through a selection process to be a W01 or warrant officer first class. And that's either as an RSM, as a regimental sergeant major, or as a specialization advisor or an executive warrant officer, because we have guys on board ships now and all sorts. So I went for the board with a good friend of mine who he'd just come back from ops, and to be honest, I think he probably was far more current. But I think the day of we done the board, I don't think his heart was really in it, because he'd literally just come back from operations as a sergeant major. And we'd done the board, and I got selected to be the warrant officer first class for the mountain leader branch, and that's the specialization advisor for the corps. And because it's the mountain leader branch, it's also for the wider UK Armed Forces mountain and cold weather operations or training. So I never thought I'd get there or be there, but it was something I did want to do. I had aspirations. I did want to be a regimental sergeant major of one of the commando units, but the stars hadn't aligned as such, and timings wise, I couldn't. And if I didn't go for the board, but I think it was one of those destiny things. It was for me. I was a mountain leader, and I still am really to my heart, So that was me. I had to follow that and be that person, like. So I became that, and I'd been selected for that, but I still had another job to do as a sergeant major. So then I got what I really just wanted to be. I then became K Company and 4-2 Commandos sergeant major, company sergeant major, and that was my last job. And with that came up, that was coming. I took over that role after the company had come back from Herrick 5 and had their pottle, and I was then in role as sergeant major. I took over from a friend of mine who was the former sergeant major, who had been their sergeant major on operations. And that was, I think it was hard, but it wasn't, because I had so much respect for what everyone had done, and what every sort of young Marine right through to officers command and sergeant majors had achieved on Herrick 5, and I was full of respect. And I also had a credible depth of experience on, from my operational background, to take on that role. And when I arrived, I met these incredible gang of young men who'd, that was the first exposure to any sort of like even commando training, was full out war operations. Tragically, the company lost 3 Marines killed, and on the flip side of that, they were awarded from that 2 or 3 military crosses for individuals, which is a bit sad, because I've always struggled with the gallantry awards, because of a piece of metal just doesn't ever substitute for one of those incredible warm bodies that were for, that lost their lives. So I was going through that. And what I did see, though, because of my experience and my background and what I've been sort of trained in and up to this stage, I seen also a lot of guys that were very young and they were struggling a bit just with that. It was quite overwhelming for them what they'd been through at such an early stage of their life.
Mm.
And I mean, this is now looking back. It's now nearly 17. Yeah, so it's what 17 years ago when I was K Company Sergeant Major. So a lot of these guys will be nearly the end of their career now. They've done their full 22, young Marines, and but they were just incredible. But I was their Sergeant Major as we went off on. We done a time on board ship, so we done an amphibious exercise with one of the ships and 539 assault squadron with our raiding craft in Holland, and we finished up alongside in Amsterdam, which was quite funny, having a company group of Marines alongside on a ship in downtown Amsterdam. That was a nice little G1 brief before they went ashore on how well they were going to be behaved. But it was incredible times, incredible things that the company were. It was an honor to be their sergeant major, but also they had their first mountain training, sort of like training serials. So we went up to North Wales and had them up in the mountains, and luckily the weather gods were good for me, and they got the full Monty. So these up into war, I'm a legend, and just get them up into my world, and all of a sudden they're going, oh dear, it's the different world up here. It is indeed. And also I took them to Norway, and just as we were coming off Norway, and that was 2008, I think that's when it actually, 2008. Yeah. That winter 2008, Norway. Coming back from that, they were then preparing to go back out to Afghanistan. And it was a funny time because the CEO at the time was a really close friend. He still is a good friend. And he's an incredible commanding officer. He said that, do you want to not get promoted and stay as the company sergeant major to deploy on operations? And even though in your heart of hearts, I'm going, of course you do. I said, I want to do. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because so many of my friends up to this stage of my career, if they weren't supposed to be there, in a lot of respects, they may have survived, because a lot of people that died in different things, in a lot of ways, may not have had to be there, the majority. And I was no, I said, look, unless you want me to come and you order me as a sergeant major to go there, and I'll do it. He said, oh, I can't do that. I said, well, I've got to follow what I've got to do. You know what I mean? So I'm getting promoted W1. That's it. But if you order me, I'll do it because I'm ordered, and it's different. It's a different thing. So I couldn't sort of put my hand up. And it's not the old classic, oh, you never volunteer. Of course, I mean, doing something like that it's a massive thing. It's a passionate thing. But I've been exposed to too many people that if they're not supposed to be there, you're not supposed to be there. You're supposed to be there, you be there, and you be there good. It's as simple as that. So I handed over to Sergeant Major, became the W1 mountain leader, and the guys went off to another deployment, which was another extremely successful deployment. And but it's one of those things. It wasn't still keep comms with all the guys from K Company and from RMR Time, and you just meet some inspiringly incredible young people all the way. And I still see young people in the armed forces they're always, you always get these people that are just so magic. They're just punching well above their weight, and you can see that they're the legends of the future.
Is there any difficulties with commanding a group of young blokes who have just come back from a war zone? Or should I put it this way? Do you have to do things a bit differently than you would do in it, like, let's say, if it was a more kind of like a peaceful part of history?
Yeah, well, it's a hard one, because when we were doing this, obviously at that sort of stage, because one of the things that I remember doing when I was the Wing Sergeant Major, Command Wing Sergeant Major, is we got invited, myself and Chris Hoare, who was with me on the Al-4 in Iraq. We got invited up to Sandhurst to give a lecture to Prince William. Actually was in the audience, about the realities of war. And there was our lecture on obviously losing our people on the helicopter and, carrying on. And also we had Bronco Lane, who used to climb with Bromley Stokes, the SAS bloke, first guy's serviceman to summit Everest. Mega nice guy. He passed away, I think, last year. Was just an incredibly nice dude. And a couple of characters from the Met Police who were on duty, the duty watch with the special branch and different areas at the night of 9/11, or sorry, 7/7 in London when the terrorist attacks happened. So we have a series of lectures and we give it there. So I've done broader things and understood a lot of things, and the depth of not only being in a fighting company and a fighting unit or in a forward reconnaissance unit. I started getting that depth of what world was about. Plus the different courses I was doing, supporting like NODICAS, kinforming, and funeral officer courses. But alongside that, and we also do equality and diversity and all these other different things, inclusivity, all that stuff was all coming in. I've done all those courses as well. But when it came to the young men coming back from operations, and I could see it, and maybe this has happened from year dot. There was that bastion of the booze, that simple thing that I'm slightly indestructible. I just get on the latch. And I think maybe because I always like to bear myself, like in my time in the Corps, I could empathize, even though I knew where they were like, they thought they were rock stars, but then the realization of their friends that had lost and them being there and friends that had been injured and everything else and that there, and they dragged them through it. They do have, especially when it comes to booze or any sort of like, intoxication or addiction, maybe even addiction they get involved in, that unleashes a lot of like, emotional roller coasters. So I did have, chatting with a few guys and that. And when the awards come out, there was a few guys that were a bit upset about the awards, about, different things. So you were sort of like you're the sergeant major, aren't you? You're the dad, aren't you? So you bring them in, you chat to them, you give them his sterling, because it's all for them. It's for their life, it's for their career, it's for what they want out of the Corps. And I used to, support that as best I could in whatever way I could. Obviously the ones that have got massively long necks or more balls than a Claymore mine, I would say, you have to sort of rattle them a wee bit and get them back on their box and tell them like, that, it is what they are. But you've got to watch them because they've got a lot of potential and character, but you've got to steer them in the right so their moral compass stays where it should be, in their path and their journey as a bootneck, as a Marine. So I loved it. I loved being a sergeant major. It was cracking. And I also felt I could empathize with every single person in that company, from the youngest Marine through the officer commanding and the CO. So in a way, you could see the importance of a good sergeant major in any company.
Without needing to go into details about or specifics, what was it that the guys are not happy about awards?
No, it was different. I think it was a unique sort of thing, and I think it was just when the awards were sort of like promulgated or came out. It was just that I think it was like a defining line and recognizing what they've been through. You know what I mean? And some of the guys been injured, and I think when they went and I think because they're young lads, they don't realize that every conflict or battle that we've been through since, for all of history, it's been exactly the same. When those awards happen, there's always some sort of, and I think it's more of a challenge, I think, for some of the people that have been getting awards as well, having to be able to wear it, especially when, there's people that everyone sees things differently. And there was so much like kinetic and bravery that went on, throughout the whole, operational cycle. It's quite a hard one. But I have those guys that did sort of like come and see me. I've chatted with them, in recent years, and they're fully over it. They just went, yeah, they got over it, and I think it was just maybe it was just a slight bit of immaturity, but also it's realization in it. Remember, up to this point in time, they'd never been part of a process where people were getting sort of bravery awards. So it was completely new for them.
So they might have had someone like a section commander who they felt, why hasn't he had one when such and such has had?
Things like that, loads of things like that were coming out in that there. So, and because I hadn't been there, that wasn't something all I could, pass on was the experience of this is what happens in operations. These are done. People have gone out of the way to write these people up and carry on with it. And write them up and put in for the awards. So everything's seen, but everyone sees things differently. And I'd say just carry on with time. And I always hammer home and said, but it's a bit of metal, and it's a bit of metal that will not replace all those people that are lost. So let's just remember that. And I think that's for the people that do win gallantry awards, and all the people I know that have done it, they completely understand that, and they find it extremely, anybody. Well, the people I know just struggle with the fact that they've been awarded something when some people never come back, and they struggle with it. So, but it has to be. It's what we're part of. It's our culture. It's our military culture.
What's just going off topic a little bit from kind of your own career? Like what do you see as being the pros and the cons of then having this like kind of award system where you can never kind of award everything, but like there's obviously a reason that we do it. So what do you think that reason is, and like have you seen the benefits from that as well?
I no, you're gonna get no. Honestly, I don't. I think honors and awards, whatever it is, whether you're a civil servant or anything, it's honors and awards. I mean, it's a classic. The one-liners like was it OBA's other blokes' efforts or something. I mean, all these sort of stuff. So I yeah, I mean, and I've got friends that are OBs also. I'm going. To me, it's irrelevant. It is irrelevant, and it's down to that. I'm proud for people that get the awards from our corps and from anything, especially on operations. People get awards, and that's all I can do. We can't if we view it in any other way, it's just it brings a sadness to it that I don't think it deserves. You know what I mean? I think the fact is that people are honored by or given laurels or whatever for their gallantry, and I think it's a weird one. It could be massively playable, but I think we do it, and I'm glad we do award people for doing well, and I think that's important. I think it's good to be seen, but I can understand that we also have to have duty of care for those people to make sure that their own mental health is looked after as well, because I know friends that have multiple awards and they are incredible people, but they really struggle with the weight of having those awards when people didn't survive. So I think I can't say, oh, let's do a better system. Let's do this. Let's do that. I think the system is how it is. But I think if we educationally, expectation management or whatever, just make sure that people are aware that this is a process of awards. This is how it's done. You know what I mean? And I think it's only nowadays where people are more open about, right, this is it. Are these the measurement or the qualifications for certain levels of bravery? And again, even with that, it's just it's a hard thing to do, because my experiences on operations, I'm sure it seems to yourself like Des, there's so many brave and selfless things that people do continually, day in, day out, that don't get awarded. And to be honest, for the most part, they don't expect or want to be awarded. And I think that's the important thing. You're going out there and you're expecting or wanting to get awarded, you're a danger to every single human being around you. So and it's just a non-entity. I just think you celebrate everyone getting themselves back and doing a professional job, not lightweighting on the job, doing it professionally and getting everyone back. People that do have the awards, I think we just have to really be careful and manage them, because for a lot of them, a lot of them are the superstars or the good people, but that gaining that award could be quite difficult for them.
Yeah, I think that's it's a really kind of a good point, because it's quite often that person's being given a reminder of the worst day of their life for
Yeah,
the rest of their life, and
yeah,
I think people kind of need to remember that. And they very rarely come without loss attached to them as well. It's usually the case that it meant that it was a bad day for a lot of people, and I think
yeah.
we need to remember that. So when was it that you decided to go ahead and do a commission and come up from the ranks?
I was W1ML, and I've been given an extension of service, so I've been getting an extra 5 years. And I looked at it, and it was I don't know what it was. Well, I have to admit, while I was at Limston as W1ML, I got my other 2 O levels that I needed to qualify as an officer. Which, I mean, did it make me more intelligent or more of an academic? I don't think so.
Made you a gentleman.
Oh, yeah, I know, maybe a different person. I don't think so, but
Yeah.
I did seriously think about it, and then I thought, right, do I want to be or still pursue the path, because I've been extended in service, to pursue the path of going and becoming a regimental sergeant major? And a lot of times, I thought, well, all I ever wanted to be remembered was a corporal in the Carter, when that was it. That's all I really wanted to be in the Corps. So when I'm a W01 and I'm thinking, right, do I want to be an RSM? I had massive respect for a regimental sergeant major and the importance that they are within a commando unit. But then I just thought, well, maybe not. Let's look at the officer route. So I was humming and hawing, and I made myself a candidate for promotion, or for a commission, senior corps commission. And that came along. I went for an admiralty interview board, passed that, and was selected for a commission. So I thought, yeah, so that's it. It wasn't like I think it might have been a bit of a 50-50 thing between pursuing to become a regimental sergeant major or become a senior corps commission officer. And that one sort of came, the first one that came past. I said, well, let's do this. The good thing was it would give me further service, because I loved, and I still wanted to be a Royal Marine. I'd still be able to stay in the Corps. And it would open, further doors, maybe back on operations again. And it did indeed. Like, it was when I got commissioned, I went in as the sort of like nominally as the MTO of 30 Commando in Stonehouse Barracks in Plymouth, but that was also the information exploitation group for the brigade, formerly the command support sort of group. It's had different names now. It's back to, I think, where name was originally came from was 30 Commando, which was Ian Fleming's commando during the Second World War, who created James Bond. So I went there, and when we were building up for Herrick 14, this is what, 2011. So I got commissioned in 10, run a few exercises out stateside, and obviously the pre-deployment exercises in Thetford helped doing like the logistical support and stuff for that. And then I was sort of segued in to be the ops officer for the Brigade Recce Force on Herrick 14, and that was an extremely busy tour for the guys. And I worked at a Lash Cigar and sort of helped generate the ConOps and getting the intelligence that for the operations of the operational cycle that the Brigade Recce Force would do, which was pretty full on tempo. Like.
Can you just explain? So could you just explain what ConOps is, and a bit more detail about like what that might look like on that deployment?
Again, things had really moved on. I think in the way we done our business at this stage, working from a pretty full-on digital platform, intelligence was flat and fast, so you were getting digital feeds from all forms of, ISTAR or intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition, reconnaissance platforms, eyes in the skies and different things, and further strategic ones, satellite, HUMINT, EW int. We've got all sorts of layers to, create a battle picture or create subjects or places we want to find out about or targets that we wanted to prosecute. And through all that sort of filter, working closely with our J2 people, our intelligence people, I would formulate plans or concept of operations, ConOps for different, should we say, prosecution of different subjects or targets. More subjects really, but a lot of them just developed and became targets down the line.
So sorry, mate, just to make clear to people, by prosecution, you're not talking legal prosecutions. You're talking.
No, we're talking to go out and either it could be a search op, it could be an arrest op, it could be a raid, it could be it depends what type of operation it would be. For a lot of it, you would start off, you would try to build up your own intelligence picture, and you get a lot from the people or the guys from the brigade recce force on the ground, hoovering up different sort of forms of intelligence, layer it with all the different like feeds that I said there. And then I would create the ConOps, always driven by the intelligence of J2, feed it into the OCBRF, obviously with the go ahead from the CEO of the Commando Exploitation Group and his ops. They give the go ahead. I'd send it back to the BRF. He would then tailor the ConOps slide, which is normally 1 or 2 slides, just giving exactly grids, what it is, what we want, what exploitation, what effect we need of that area or that target, and he would sort of tie it up and then do his orders off the ConOps, preparing for the op, and then the guys go out and do the cop, whether it be a helicopter op or a ground op in vehicles, and they go and prosecute whatever the target is. And some of the jobs we had were pretty high up there. Borderline. We work with SF in a lot of jobs and higher agencies as well. And, we were very effective. It was very effective. And we had some really, really strong results during that tour. And one of the best results, we were very, I'd say we were very lucky, because we never lost anyone from the BRF. We did lose, a couple of individuals that were attached to us, sadly, during that time. But the one job that we'd done was there was this area that we'd got a feed from an intelligence source that they were drying out homemade explosives in the back of this compound, further up north from Lashkigar, where a lot of people know where things happen. And it was out of bounds at the time for American Special Forces, but we spoke to with the CEO of 30, and we just said, look, we need to prosecute this, because if we don't, our people are going to get injured in a very short time with this explosive unless we find out what's going on here. And we got we call it as a fastball operation, got all the aviation tied in, got the ConOps developed, straight to OCBRF, and we got the clearance to go ahead from the brigade commander, I think, and a 2-star as well, actually, General Cullen. And then we prosecuted the task. As we went in, the guys landed. They were only land 400 meters from the target. So lads landed 2 Chinooks. They were in contact straight away from 3 firing points as they landed on. One of the Chinooks got hit quite a few times, but managed to bounce and get itself back to a secure location. So having one of the Chinooks taken out really was quite a big whoa. But the guys were stuck in an open field, and they fire maneuvered over 400 meters in broad daylight and went into the compound, and it was an Afghan bomb making factory. So they had everything they could think of that was needed for they even had like a sort of like a set of tables up with kids making low wire and tangled pressure plates. They had all the martyrs flags, and they'd also bits and pieces of allied equipment that they were booby trapping as well, and we had all that there. And the guys and obviously they were quite precious with it, because they were protected from 3 other compounds. So the lads had a big battle, got themselves in there, and then they laced it all up with explosives, blew it up, and then we J-damned it, and it just completely flattened and cleared what the threat was. Plus, we managed to follow a lot of the, shall we say, squatters and people that left the target area. So it was, it was a successful day, and again we had no collateral damage except for the Chinook, where the crew were all tickety boo, and we managed to get that back safely, even though it was potentially we could have lost that. But they're the sort of ops that we're doing fastballs with, and it was a highly successful tour. I think statistically there's something about it being such a successful tour somewhere like.
So I'm going to have to do a bit of maths here. Yeah. So bear with me. But I think by this point it's 24 years since you did your first op.
Yeah, but 24 years. Yeah, so that's 20. Yeah, it is 24 years. Yeah, you're right.
We pulled it off. So in that time, what were the big changes that you'd seen in operations, how they were conducted? And I'm not necessarily talking about, say, the level of how kinetic things were, but just the way that we go about our business, like you mentioned, iStar and that kind of thing. Yeah. And what are the kinds of things that did not change from one operation at the beginning of your career to the end, and maybe will never kind of change throughout history as long as you've got soldiers? These are kind of going to be the commonalities.
Yeah, the changes mean I when I was doing my discrete operation types training and that small team tactics was probably the similar stuff. It was probably the same down to even, for doing surveillance stuff with wet film or just normal sort of 35mm camera film was the same as what we've been doing since, Second World War, maybe after that, 50s and that. Obviously with newer gear, newer cameras and that, but the SOPs and the MO that we were using was very similar. But from my first operation through until my last, it's just the digitization of the battlefield. And even at the level of, I'd even say, that when it was digitized, my first sort of digital deployment was Kosovo, and that was 2000, and that's what, 24 years ago now, 25 years ago. But from there up to what it is, or when my final sort of deployment or final ops, exercises is mind blowing at what we can do. But it's so direct feeds, communications is up there. We've got like a digital umbrella, which is like harness from all the different sort of like things we have in the air. Things they're not stagnant. Nothing is stopping, but it's the rate of moving forward. I'd even say the precision weapon systems that are being developed, both industrial and homemade, and using like drones and that, is mind blowing. So the ability to kill people is it's become so it's how can I say, it's not easier, but it's turned into a bit of a game. You can, even the controls in the PlayStation sort of scenario of flying, unmanned drone, hot predator type, call signs, delivering missiles or delivering like drones themselves. It's very much a PlayStation environment. But the fundamental of a soldier from day one to the end, and there's a question mark at the end of it, but in my time up until 23, that if you were professional and you were good at your fundamentals with your weapon and your pack, and like say for me, and you could ski as well, all those things, all the fundamentals I need to be a competent, small team operator in every sort of theater, it was always down to those professional skills. And I think, and that is always needed, and you will always get your best results. And I'd say morally your best results if you've got people that have got a good moral compass and are very physically hard and professionally rigorous. If you have that, and that you think from day one of the soldier's worth, that's what the case has been. Let's say up until this point now, it's just that your intellect as a soldier, I think, has to be about tenfold. You still have to be physically robust, professionally rigorous, and diligent. But your diligence and your intelligence got to be another 3-layer. It's like playing. I say it's like playing a game of chess now. You've got to be thinking about 3 or 4 different turns down the line, and obviously with all the different layers of threat that's coming your way. And I think that you cannot, if you're on the front line or even behind the lines, you've got to be on point every nanosecond of that day. There's nowhere you can step away and get your head down because you're not on scene. It's one of those things. It's a really, really hard. I think it's a harder battlefield now than it's ever been. But you still need all the fundamentals. But you have to add to the fundamentals and make them fundamental. Your awareness for 24/7 by the second, I think.
So, what were the closing stages of your career then?
Well, then coming up to 2015, I decided, wearing my reading glasses and sitting in front of a computer screen, that, right, I need to do something different. I think I was in the same commando unit as my son as well, actually. So I thought, right, I've got to do something different. Yeah, I've got to do something different. All I wanted to be was a bootneck, and that's all I loved doing. But I realized that, right, I've got to do something different. What is it that has made this incredible journey that I've been so lucky to survive? What has made it? What's been the best thing about it? And the best thing about it has been, and always will be, is the people and the stories, or the dits, where we spin story. I mean, we call it spinning dits in the Corps, and naval term, but it's telling stories. You must admit, the best people, no matter where you are. I mean, you've seen this, guys, as well. Like in any of the coldest, wettest, honking place out there, there'll be a dit spinner, there'll be a storyteller there, there'll be a crowd around them listening. You going, I just love that, and that was magical for me. So I thought, right, I'm going to be a storyteller. I love me stories. I'm an Irishman. That's all we do. We spin dits. So, and you're a Welshman. It's very close, isn't it? It's very close.
Sing out dits, mate.
Yeah, and so I looked at creative writing. I went to a local university. I wasn't a graduate, so my LCAS would support me going through university to get a degree. So I looked at creative writing, and in that creative department, or the arts department, such, there was an acting course, and then I mapped across your skills at every level of service, and how, in a way, you're a performer. You're not. You're yourself. You are yourself, but you are a performer. As soon as you get that first tip in your arm as a lance jack, you have to step up and perform. You have to be. People look up to you, so you're always performing. And then if you go into operations where, the same fears and worries as everyone has, but you still have to perform because people look to you for inspiration. When you're doing shures and you're speaking to people in different tongues and they're speaking a different language, you've got an interpreter feeding you, but you're looking him in the eye and he has to believe every single word you say. You've got no malice, you've got no hate, but you want him to get a message and he's got to believe him. So you're acting to make sure, and that's with your eyes. So that's better than, he doesn't even understand the word you're saying, but you can tell by your eyes, you can tell he's getting what you're saying. And that's an important thing. So you think about it, if I ever, when I'm acting, nothing is comparable to doing that for live, for real, when it's life or death. And once I've done that, I'm happy. So it was all about performance and acting and storytelling. And that was it. I said, right, that's what I need to be. I need to be an actor. That's the way I tell stories. I'm obviously the same as you guys. I'm like, I need to write things as well now, because it's a tough, horrible industry, but you need to write to get, to keep those creative juices going. So I do write, but I trained as an actor. I've done 3 years at university. But my should we say, my little bonus was somebody who I love very much said to me, I think you should join the reserves. And I'm going, hold on a second, I've done nearly 30 years. I'm good to go. I'm happy. I've done my technical course. She goes, no, I've been at university. I think you should join the reserves. So I joined the reserves. I'm very happy. And I was chuffed that they let me stay on and they wanted me. And that was my sideline. And I'm so glad I did it, because I needed that whilst I was going through actor training. And I think it's just it wasn't culture shock. I think maybe a little bit of culture shock, but I just needed that. I love working with all my new wonderful young colleagues. I mean, I was like 47 and the nearest age to me was 23, and they were a mature student, but I did need that step back every once in a while and just have that, be in that world where I'd spent so much time and I loved, and I do love still to this day. So whilst I was actor training, and further down the line, I've stayed in the reserves and been able to support out with, mountain training, cold weather warfare training in Norway, and, where I can, I've been able to. And that was really hard for me, actually, for the final, you break your ties with something that's been such an important part of your life. But I had to, in a way, because I wasn't supporting it enough to make it think. I had to really become an actor, and then when I did finish, it was my time to go, time to move on. But if I had stayed in there, I think I would have. For me, morally, I would have had to give more of my time to the Corps, and I don't think I've made a decision. I'm an actor, so I've got to move that way down that path. So, a lovely experience, and I will always love the Corps of the Royal Marines. So, and thank them, and wave the banner for them whenever they require.
So let's talk about Sunray and how that came about. And well, first of all, I guess to tell everyone what the project is, and then we'll kind of go into like the genesis of it.
Okay, right. This is the date. This is the date. This is the date. Right. Sunray Fallen Soldier.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Let me just do that bit again. So, like, tell us about Sunray, how Sunray came about, and I'm a monk for having my alarm clock. So I forgot to.
Oh, did it go off? Did it?
Yeah, my alarm went off, mate. It was actually, ironically enough, it's about a couple of scripts.
That's good. That's good.
I owe a couple of people a script reading.
Yeah.
So I'll do this bit again. So mate, tell us about Sunray and how this came about.
Right, Sunray Fallen Soldier is a I'll tell you what it is first, and I'll tell you how we magicked it up. So it's a feature film which is now out on Apple, Amazon, Sky, Virgin, YouTube, Fandango, 20 television territories globally. It's on flights between like Qantas flights and Emiratis flights. It's pretty much everywhere. So nobody's really got an excuse not to watch it. You want to fork out a fiver for it. But it's what happened was a few years back, I got a phone call from a couple of the guys who are former Royal Marines who that went on to become naval photographers, and they wanted to do something about our people. They had they had a bit of a roller coaster with their own mental health, and they wanted to do something about our people. And that, as an actor, he said, "Oh, you're an actor now, and we'd like to get you involved." So for me, that was the hook. I was straight in there and going, right, I'm involved. Whatever happens, let's go with it. I did know that the lads had quality, had that talent to, with digital media and making digital filmmaking. And what we done is we got the crew together. So the actual film itself, it's about myself, who is Sunray, the sort of title role as such, the fallen soldier, who's come back from operations. He's lost people. He's probably in a lot of ways very much like myself. However, he hasn't been able to, his mental health has really taken a hammering, and he's struggling really, really quite a lot. He's lost his family. He's struggling with his new sort of civilian, shall we say, work. And he's he's quite a broken person. He is a broken person. And then things take a step worse for it, and something happens to his daughter. After that, the only thing he knows to do is to seek revenge. Not a healthy thing. None of it is a healthy thing. And he goes after, certain individuals. I think it's not cliche. It's a very. Have you watched it, Kezzy?
I've seen the first half hour, mate. I haven't been able to watch the full thing. And I apologize, mate. I usually don't like having people on unless I've been able to watch the thing or read the book. But the last ones, mate, have been pretty mental.
Well, but be honest, I've watched it. I mean, the first time I seen the film was at the premiere at Leicester Square. So we had a big sort of premiere at Leicester Square, and that was the first time I seen him. I fully understood what we were doing, what the script was, what journey we were following. But when you actually see it on the big screen, and I have to say, I'm really, really proud of it. I think it does all of our people. So if anyone who's a veteran, who's blue light, who's even lost somebody in their life, just it's for human beings that struggle with just things in life in general, just everything that just seems to be compounding against you smiling again or enjoying life. And I think that with Sunray it does. There is bright moments, but he gets his team together to help him. And I have to admit, watching it when I seen it on the big screen, I am proud of it. And it's all I can say to people is if you get an opportunity, just watch it and think about, think of the depth and the characters and think of your own people in your own life. And I think it'll resonate with you.
What were the kind of the challenges for you as an actor? Because people always say, well, if you do something that then that's going to make kind of things easier in a way. But what are some of the difficulties that come with a role that you know so well?
You want to get it right. So they sort of like the gun work as such, the contact drills, working in a small team, that second nature. That was something that we that there was not an issue, especially when we got the team together. All former bootleggers are actors, but it took us about 10 minutes and we're on point. Everyone knew what they were playing in the team, and we were bang on with it. And it was, that was a joy, and that was a given for us. But as an actor, for me, all of us, remember that hook came in because it was about our people and those people that are taking their own lives and the families that are having to pick up the pieces after, these people are broken coming back from operations, whether it be physically or mentally. And that was the important thing. So to me, the challenge is not only as an actor, maybe it was harder for me because I have seen firsthand this happening to my friends and people. And I wanted to make sure that Andy, the character I play, was believable and credible. And you know what this world's like. It's quite lovely. So it was like, oh yeah, you were incredible. You was bang on. That's it. And I love hearing that. But I do get messages every once in a while from people that have lost people from on ops or afterwards who've taken their own lives. And when I get those messages, that's like, it's gold dust because they understand it. And that was the important. When I get those messages, I'm going, this is what it's about. So as an actor, that was my biggest challenge because I come from that background. I've got to be credible and believable and not be just another, oh, look, it's a service person who knows an actor. But which again, I can't change where I come from, but I am an actor and I'm a professionally trained actor. So, but it's what I do now. But for me, it was just getting it right because I have come from that background and it had to be bang on, but it had to be believable because you can't. Yeah, it's just one of those things. And as an actor, I mean, I've done a lot of my work I do is in theatre. So coming into the the digital world, and I do I find working for film or TV acting or film acting for film is so much more challenging for me than on stage. I love stage. Stage is brilliant. You just feed it, you nurture it, you bring it to life. You get that energy on stage. It's magical. But for TV, it's just there. It's the director's eye. It's that focus, that frame. It's less is more. It's this. It's there's so much you can do, but it's really just tentatively magical for an actor to get it right. And I love that. It's just something I initially didn't. I used to think it was quite scary acting for film because it was seemed to be more challenging because the stage was just where I learnt my business. But now I really do get acting for film, and as for an actor, being able to do a feature, being a lead in a feature, even though we created ourselves, it was brilliant, and the experience I got from that as an actor, slightly more mature actor, may I add, as an actor is, it's second to none. And we created this ourselves. So from the guys, you think about it, the guys wrote it, they filmed it, they done all the posts, they done the lighting for it. We had a sound guy in to do the sound. We performed and we acted in it, and we rose the lads crowdfunded it. So we put it out. We done a little a trailer and put it out for crowdfunding, and we raised like 60K from the trailer because that was the quality of their film work. So we got that, and then some good former Royal Marines who own businesses, including like Lee Sheldon from Black Onyx, managed to support us with the rest of the capital, like an investment. And I think he saved the day for us, and we got it over the line. So it's a big shout out and a thank you to all our supporters because you made it happen. So it's for you and for Lee Sheldon for being, being that big chunk that helped us get it over the line.
How long does it take to do something like that from start to finish? Like, say, from starting to write the script to here we go, here's the finished product, we're ready to take it out there and get it on platforms.
Well, Sunray's taken a hell of a lot longer, purely because everyone had a day job and it wasn't, all the professionals we brought in, both cast and, behind the camera, they were all paid industrial sort of rates for that time. And that was quite important, so that, it gave us the sort of credibility of our piece of work. But it wasn't big budget. There was nobody was paid like rockstar pay whatsoever. And so for the guys to do, it's taken us 4 years to get it where it is. That's from the starting. But really, realistically, filming wise, we filmed in about 3 weeks with a few add-ups, phone calls, this and that, move around, could do this, and we done different things, but it was done. So we were able to shoot that quality of film in 3 weeks. But again, it's all been prepared, it's written, we've got the people in to do it and achieve it. But then it's the post as well. So the post, for a film, I think film of that quality, if you see the quality of it, it was 2 people really done all the posts. So all the post work, the main effort, well, most of it was done by two people. And we also got an extremely talented guy in California, Tristan Clark, a composer, who said, "Can I do you guys a soundtrack?" And the lads went, "Well, we haven't got any money. Are you sure about this?" And they went, "Yeah, don't worry about that. I just want to do a soundtrack for it, And he owns the record, so it doesn't matter. So if it benefits, but the soundtrack it done just really beats. It gives you that heartbeat through it, and just added so many layers to it as well. So, people have seen I think the ingenuity and the creativity of the guys that have put this together. Also the efforts, and nobody gave a fiddler's fart about money, but they cared about creating something that was important. And I think we've done it. I mean, initially we started off going, right, we're going to make a 3-episode pilot series that we might get out on YouTube, but at least it's, we're celebrating what our funders have given us. But now we've made, you think about how punching above its weight is, and I'm not going to say how much the budget was, by the way. People don't say the budget now, but I've got to say it's under £1 million. But I would just say it's well under £1 million. I'm not going to say anything else. So I'll probably compromise myself there anyway. So it don't matter.
I just want to tell everyone, Tip is he's got 3 gold Rolexes on his wrist as he's telling me this.
No, I do not. I got me pikey very much. So it isn't. It isn't at all. So people have given the support and positivity that we've had is because this is a project that's done. It's such a complete indie film, which has been done with a lot of heart and a lot of those spirits and souls of people that aren't no longer with us. So that's why I'm proud of it. And when you can see my honking head up in the big screen and not want to be violently sick and going, Jesus, I must be doing, I'm proud of that. That's good. I mean, it's yeah, I'm happy with who the character, how I played the character and how the characters come across. And I would love to see if Andy got back in the zone again, but we never know.
What is the kind of lessons that you've learned as an actor from that you'll take forward to your next projects?
I think it's just it's the team effort as well. That being part of the cast and all the team. But I've worked on big movie projects and like that, and I think the vibe and the positivity that hangs around different productions. You need that. You need that. And I have worked in some productions which haven't been as positive, but when you get a good vibe and good buzz and people are making magic, it's just wonderful. And with Sunray, I just hope that, and the quality of the team, the sort of the intimate team that we have, and you must have been. It's sad in a way because we've come together, made this, hopefully, a little bit of history for all of us, and we sort of part ways. We're all going to be mates forever, but the fact is, you can't. Being creative isn't getting the same bunch of people to go, right, let's go and do something again. So just got to see what comes or thing. So that's why there's going to be a point where Sunray's got to go behind me, and I'm purely looking at, right, what else are we doing? So I'm already writing at the minute, as you are as well, because you've got to do writing as well. I'm writing a script at the minute for a play which I've been picked up by Theatre Royal Plymouth to give, and it's called Brothers, and it's bizarrely about my friends that died in the helicopter going into Iraq, and I want to make a piece of theatre which just commemorates the wonder of who they were and their energy as human beings, and that they can, so I'm working hard on it at the minute just to make sure that's bang on, and I'll be first performing it in June and see where I go with that, take it.
You were telling me the other day about the process of auditioning and that kind of thing, and I think obviously that applies to acting, but I think we can kind of like widen that out as well to just people in general, and about that needing to get up there and needing to get put yourself in positions and almost like not take no for an answer, and particularly when you're getting into a new field. So can you just like kind of fill people in on what your mentality is behind that?
Well, I think, we guys, we talked about it before, but you're right. I'm throughout military service, even though you think that the whole world is stacked against you, including everybody in your service, everybody you're like that, you feel like, we call it the pusser. We feel like the government or somebody's just putting a big turd burger in front of you every day, and you have to chew on. And you're like, what? This is what I want to do. I want to do this, this, and this. But if you keep focused on those things, it will happen. It will be yours. It will become yours. You just got to keep it and bat off all these infringements on your destiny or your goal, and you've got to keep pushing for it. And you do generally, I'd say, in the military service, you will get it unless you get injured or whatever else. You will achieve it because it's all doable for a human being, I think, and it worked for me. When it comes into this industry, you've got to have a different mindset because you got to give that rigor and diligence to achieve and prepare for auditions or self-tapes or whatever else that. But once you do that and you've given it, you're going, right, I'm happy with that. Put it behind you, because if it doesn't come your way, you all of a sudden you're going, you start asking yourself questions like, am I shit? I mean, what's the point? I mean, why have they got the job and I haven't got the job? All this sort of stuff. So I've not, because initially I was doing all my work, I was doing this. Why am I not getting picked? Why am I not getting the audition? Why is it not happening for me? And I realized it's all absolutely irrelevant. It's on a personal sort of thing. It's on a casting director. It's on what that director wants, who they want. It's basically for film work. It's just there's a bespoke thing which they want to fit that frame with. So it is not in any way, if you give you 100%, if you trained as an actor and you give 100%, you're doing the right thing, then that's it. If you get it, it's your chance to work and do what you do, and that's what you want. You want to be able to work all the time. And I think you've got to just build up that resistance to go, right, this is it. Keep the focus, the professionalism, get on point every time, because you want to do it. You want to become that character. You want to deliver that part in a film or on stage. Just always you give 100%, but as soon as your potential, or you stay focused on it as long as you have to be focused, and cut away when you no longer need that focus, and then switch fire and start looking on something else. And that's important. So you've got to build up you've got to build up a hide like a rhinoceros, and just lean into it and just keep making magic and always have that positivity. Don't be the glass half full. You must admit, everybody in the military service, you've always got those wankers that are just gone, everything is just absolute shit and nothing's going to get better. Get rid of them. So you just got to go, right, that's done. Right, let's go. Half full, and just carry on. Get in there. Every time you want to go in for an audition or an interview, you give them 100%. You know what I mean? And if you get an in-person audition, give it 100%. Let them give you sort of like, direction points and change it so you can change it. But always give it, always be brave with it, and just let yourself roll with it.
Mate, we talked about awards earlier. I'm now going to give you an award for longest ever episode of the podcast, mate. Congratulations on the record.
I told you I was a mega waffling turd.
Mate, it's been fascinating. You've had an incredibly storied career, and you've, now in the second coming. That sounds a bit religious, but really excited to go see what you're going to do next, mate. Is there anything that you, any kind of parting words, as my cat is crying on my shoulder? Hang on, Lolo. Is there anything, was it, mate, never work with children or animals in show business?
Yeah, I know.
Is there anything else that you kind of like to leave people with before we wrap up?
No, all I'd say is if you haven't seen Sunray Fallen Soldier, is do watch it, have a bit of reflection after you watch it, and give us a genuine rating on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, because it supports the film. And because of the content of the story and the characters, I think we're in a challenging world anyway. So it's just good to have people that are genuine to watch it, reflect, and just give us a genuine rating on it.
All right, mate. Well, I'll link everything up in the show notes so people can find it. Thanks so much for your time, mate. Really appreciate it, and all the best on whatever you're working on next with the play and anything else you've got up your sleeve, mate. And thanks very much for your time,
guys. Thanks so much for listening today. Tip, thanks again for your time, mate. I'm sure by now, guys, we spent 3 hours with Tip. He's given a lot of his time, and if you want to do something to say thank you and give yourself a little thank you at the same time, then go watch Sunray Fallen Soldier. As you know, guys, we don't do advertisements on the podcast from kind of outside sources, no reading ads or anything like that. So all we ask is that if you've enjoyed today's episode or any other, then you tell a mate, you make a post, you share the post. I know some people do that. I'm not going to go, guys. I know, time is precious, but that kind of goes both ways. It takes a lot of time for our guests to come in, sit down, give the interview. Because I'm a boomer, it takes me a lot of time to try and put these things together and edit them. So if you could take 2 minutes to do a post or to tell a friend, then that really help. Because if you think these are worth listening to, then someone else will do too. I'm sure you probably noticed Afghanistan, Iraq especially, doesn't really get much traction in the news, doesn't really get much traction on TV or anything like that. So I know a lot of us listening, Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, we can't complain that no one cares about the stories if we're not going to share them ourselves. So if you could do that, I really appreciate it. And if you're interested in signed copies of Voices of Victory, which covers the British Army's campaign in Germany, the last 3 months of World War II, all personal accounts, if you're interested in that, then there's a link down in the show notes. All right, guys, we will be back on Friday with a D-Day special. I've already recorded it. It's a really great episode with historian Stephen Fisher, who's an expert on Sword Beach. We really get into the nitty-gritty of what went down that day. I think you're going to really enjoy that one. So I'll catch you then.